Today, we're taking our first look at the new Karbon Steel Griddle from Kamado Joe. We're breaking out the Big Joe, and I figured, what's the perfect way to break in a griddle? We're gonna do some smash burgers. Let's get into it. What's up, barbecue fans? Welcome back to Patio. My name's Jake. You're watching Mom Cook. Today on the channel, we're taking our first look at the new Karbon Steel Big Joe Griddle. Now this thing is a monster. It takes up the whole surface of the Big Joe. And one of the nice things about it is that it's got this little grease trap here. So grease will just fall in instead of pooling up here. And as I mentioned, it's made from carbon steel, so it's not quite as heavy as cast iron, and it's gonna be a little bit easier to maintain, although anything like this is gonna take a little bit of maintenance. And as I read the instructions, first thing we gotta do is we have to season this. So one thing I found here, kind of humorous, it says, some ovens may not be large enough for the Big Joe Griddle. Well, let me tell you, friends, if you've got an oven that's big enough to fit this in, we need to be friends. I thought I had a big oven, I put it in, it only went in about 3/4 of the way, and I was like, all right, we're doing this outside. So this is super simple to do. It's gonna take a little bit of time, so I'm gonna go through the process. Let's fire up the Joe. So as you can see, I've already taken my ash tool and just scrape this around. You can also just give that basket a shake. And I did empty out the bottom already, so we've got to get this filled with some lump. So we've gone ahead and filled this up almost all the way. We're gonna run at about 400 degrees for an extended period of time, so we wanna make sure we don't run out of fuel in the process. We'll take our grill gun here and just fire this up. Now we'll take our star accessory, our heat deflectors, and we'll start bringing this guy up to 400 degrees. So we've got our bottom vent open all the way. So we've got our top dome all the way open as well. We're trying to get some heat in our ceramics. We're gonna bring this up about 400, 450, and then we'll start to lock it down and let our dome continue to heat up. In the meantime, an important thing to note here is you have to use a high temperature oil on this, but it says do not recommend using avocado oil, which I thought was surprising, coconut or olive oil. Olive oil's got a lower smoke point. They recommend using canola, sunflower, vegetable, flaxseed, grapeseed, or soybean oils. Today, we're gonna use some canola, so let's go get that. Now, the beautiful thing about a grill gun is that within 5 minutes, we're already at 500 degrees, so we're gonna shut this guy down. We're gonna keep the top open all the way for a second here. We're gonna go down to about 1 inch on the bottom. And then what we're gonna do is we will push our ceramics back together. And while we're here, we're gonna knock this back down to just below this third line. Start to get this dialed into where we want it. And now we can focus on this guy. Now the big thing here is I've already washed this with soap and water and I've dried it. It's actually dried for a little while. We've got a little bit of ash here. The wind is coming from behind my back. And what we're gonna do here is we're going to put a very light coat on this. I've got some foil here just to kind of contain the oil. But if you've never seasoned anything like this before, you kind of think that more oil is better. It is not. It will work exactly the opposite against you, and what'll happen is you'll get a super sticky finish on here. The reason why we're seasoning this is we're trying to build up a very, very light coating of oil that's gonna polymerize, and then it's gonna make this non-stick. So what we wanna do here is we're gonna do this 2 or 3 times today before we even use it. The more prep you put in the beginning, the better the non-stick surface will be and the harder it'll be, so it'll last a little bit longer. Now what we're gonna do here is we will start from the bottom. Now they don't tell you to season the bottom, and I'm only gonna do 1 coating on the bottom, but I think just to help keep it rust free. So today we're using some flaxseed oil. Now, if you have an oven that this will actually fit into, I wouldn't recommend using flaxseed because it does have a little bit of an odor to it. You can use like a canola or vegetable oil for inside, but I like this. I've used it for many years, and this builds up a really nice hard surface. And we're gonna put a little bit on here. And today what I'm using, these are shop towels. You can get them at a Pep Boys or Canadian Tire if you're in Canada, but these are like paper towel, but they're a little bit heavier and they're not gonna tear or rip or leave anything behind. And really what you wanna do is you want a super, super thin coat. This oil will go a long way. And again, they don't tell you to do the inside like this, but we're gonna do it just for an extra step. It takes only a couple seconds here. And you saw that one squirt covered that whole area, right? Now, if you put this on too thick, and what happens at the end of the hour, this is sticky, you're gonna have to let it cool, put it in for another hour, and put it in, maybe you might have to put it in for 2 or 3 hours until you get rid of all that stickiness. You can save it, but you'll save yourself a lot of aggravation if you just put on a light coat from the beginning. Just wanna get the lip here. That's that. Check our temps here. We're gonna open this up a little bit, get us closer to that 400. Now you can be anywhere between 400 and 475. I'll take another little shot here. Take your time to make sure that you didn't miss any spots. We're not gonna cook on this, but we might as well just give it a protective coating. Now, right now we're sitting about 375. We're gonna put this on, bring it up the temperature a little bit. Now we do have our heat deflector still there. I don't want the direct heat touching this. I want to treat it like an oven and just do a nice long season on it. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to let this go for 1 hour. Then we're going to let it cool. Then we're gonna put another thin coat on it. I'm not gonna do the bottom, I just wanted to do that once. Then we're gonna put it on for an hour, let it cool, and then we're gonna do it a third time. They recommend doing it 3 times. Don't cut corners on this. The better that you prep and season your griddle, the better nonstick surface you'll have. It takes a little bit of extra time, but it's well worth it. I'm not gonna bore you with those steps. I'll bring you back when we're done those, and we'll get on to our smash burgers. Real quick, one thing I wanna show you, when you take your griddle, it's at room temperature. So when we put it on our Joe, it's gonna take a lot of heat energy to get it up to temperature. So we dropped down to 300 degrees, a little bit less. Now what I did is I opened up my door by up to 2 inches at the bottom, and I opened this all the way up. Now after about 8 minutes, we're coming up to the 400 degree mark. So I'm gonna shut it down again. We're gonna go somewhere in between these lines. I'm not sure exactly where it's gonna be dialed in for 400 degrees, but I'm gonna dial it in there. And now that we're at 400 degrees, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna restart my watch. That way we're giving it exactly an hour at 400 degrees. I'll bring you back when it's smash burger time. So as you can tell, it's been more than a few hours. We're back, our griddle is nice and seasoned. Couple things I wanna point out here. Now, in the instructions, it suggests that you turn the griddle upside down to season so you don't get any pooling. Great tip for me, I've seasoned a lot of pans, so I know to go and use a very, very thin amount of oil. You saw when I did it, I was really pushing that oil around. So I wasn't too worried about any pooling, and as I look around, I've got no pooling here whatsoever. Now I have a little bit of a spotted finish here. And the one thing that I forgot to mention, and I actually clued in about 20 minutes into it, if my dome temperature is at 400, this is gonna be hotter, right? So this runs about 50 to 75 degrees hotter. So I got out my laser gun, quickly saw that I was approaching 475, and we backed it down, and I ran dome temperature at 375 to get this into the nice zone that we want. If you go too hot with it, you're gonna just burn the oil. You're not gonna polymerize it properly. And the last final thing here is, as I feel around here, I have no sticky residue. If you get to this point and you have some stickiness, everything's gonna stick to it. So put it back in for another hour or two until all that goes away. Now what I've done is I've removed the heat deflectors. I've opened back up my dome here. I've got the bottom open about 3 inches. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get this guy at the temperature. We wanna be cooking around 600 degrees. So I remove the heat deflectors so we can get some direct lump right under there. I have not added any more lump or anything like that. So we're in good shape here. And just like that, we'll let that get up to temperature for a little bit. Now, we're gonna make a version of smash burgers that I actually haven't made before. I always like to try new things on the channel for some reason, but I don't think we're adventuring too far that I can't handle this on the fly. But we're gonna try the Oklahoma version where you finally take some onion and you put it on top of the burger. I'm just looking at my mandolin here. If you don't have a mandolin, I highly recommend you get one. They are super, super useful. You can change out the blade here. I'm gonna be trying to make some pickles here in a video sometime soon, and this will do that pickle cut for you as well. Or if you wanna make your vegetables look all fancy, you can use that as well. And I've just got a white onion. The big thing here is make sure you use this. That is a razor blade and it will take your finger off. So let's see how we're looking here. Now you want these almost paper thin. I'm 1/16 of an inch or something like that. I'm only making a couple burgers here, so I don't need too much going on. What have I got down here? Oh yeah, that'll be more than enough here. I don't know, I'm a big onion guy, hang on. I'll find a use for it. Now we've got tons of onions. And again, they're just paper thin. Pack this guy up. And what I've got here is I've got some wax paper, some kosher salt. Our pepper can, if we want some fresh cracked pepper. If you guys have not broken down and bought one of these yet, I know they're expensive, so well worth it. Just the ability to grind a whole bunch of pepper quickly and adjust so many different levels of coarseness. You'll never buy another grinder again. I have a discount code down below. I've got some high temp oil. Now, recently on my Yoder, I did my Smoke Burger 2.0 video and I ground some meat. We're actually using some of that brisket that I ground a few months back. And in that video, I made some smoked ketchup. That's what my S symbolizes. So I'm gonna use some of that smoked ketchup today. I'll put a link to that video up here if you haven't seen that. The smoked ketchup alone is probably worth it for you. If you know, when I first had smoked ketchup in a restaurant, I was like, this is dumb. Something I don't need. And then I was like, French fry. Oh, this is delicious. So I make it once in a while. And again, I just make a full batch of it. So it does last some time. Let's go get our meat and check our temperature here. Where are we at? 450. Doesn't take too long to heat up. We'll let that keep going for just another couple minutes and then we'll get our burgers. Now, this is my meat brisket that I ground up and vacuum sealed it. And I want to make a quick point here. Do not be put off by the color right now. It looks a little brownish. When you vacuum seal it, you take out all the air, right? So if you leave this sitting outside the vacuum seal bag for a little while, it'll get oxygenated and it will get pink again. Just wanted to let you know, like if you haven't seen that before, that that's just something to be aware of. But as I mentioned, this is all fresh ground brisket. And once you ground your own meat, you won't really have a reason to go buy some. And you can weigh these out, but I'm not gonna get mad about having too big of a burger. Let's see what our temperature is at now. So I'll show you. What are we at here? Right around 600. See if we can get an angle on that camera here. But about 600 there. So we are perfect. We're gonna use a little bit of high temp oil here. Don't need a lot. I'm just gonna move this around. Put our burgers here. Since I don't have a fancy burger press, we're going to use a good old-fashioned spatula. And I can see that I'm a little close to each other. A little bit of salt. And the magic here is that we're going to put all these onions over top. While we're waiting for that, we will put a little bit of butter on some buns here. Those are on the outside where it's going to be a little cooler. Oh yeah, that's what we're looking for. That last one's right in the middle. Should have spread my coals out just a little bit more to see some even heat. And now that I'm thinking about it, using some oil beforehand, I probably didn't have to do that. Whew. Not gonna take too long, we'll give that maybe a minute. Let's pull these guys off. Actually, you know what? I always make the mistake of putting pickles on the top and then they fall off. So I finally learned my lesson. We're gonna put some on the bottom. I can't tell you how many times they fall off and I get all frustrated. Here we go. Well, that, my friends, is quite the burger. Now you'll notice I'm a little weird. I don't have cheese on my burgers, forgive me. It's just not my thing. But if you want cheese, you do you. A little bit of mustard, a little bit of smoked ketchup. Now I'll admit, maybe I'm out of practice for my smash burger a little bit. They're a little messy, but overall, that's a burger. Before we dive in, let's talk about the contest. On my channel, every video I do a contest. All you gotta do is you gotta be subscribed to the channel, you gotta like the video, you have to comment with the 2 hashtags I give you in that video, and the following week I will use a random comment picker, and if I pick you, you will win a $25 gift card to bbq.com. If you're a Patreon member, I'll leave that link right here. Starting at $5, you can support the channel, and if I draw your name, I'll double it and make it $50. I've already had 3 Patreon members win. It's completely random. One member actually now has won 3 times, which is hilarious to me, but it's all about commenting on the videos and commenting on every single one. So Thursday to Thursday, Tuesday to Tuesday. Now, let's look at who won last week. Let's see what we got. This is for the burnt ends video from Chuck Roast. The hashtags were Komodo Joe, hashtag burnt ends. We had 39 unique comments. Paul Hughes, I wonder if those would be better if you cubed up first. I'm not sure, like I said in the beginning of the video, I wasn't sure if I should cube them first or do them whole and cube them up at the end. Next time I'll try them that way, we'll see. You, sir, won yourself a $25 gift card to bbq.com. I will comment on this comment, get you to email me, we'll confirm it's you, and then we'll get that out to you. Let's get back to the video. And as a final wrap up, let's just talk one more time about the griddle here. The nice thing about this is that as we're cooling off, we can scrape this clean, and there's this little slit. So everything will go down and burn inside. So you can keep it nice and clean. We'll let it cool off, we'll clean it properly. But the good thing is here is that that slit is right at the front. So it's gonna go down in the basket and it will burn off, but it's not gonna go directly in the fire and cause a grease fire. Now, enough talking. Let me try one of these bad boys. Eeny, meeny, miny, to heck with it. We're gonna have this one right here. Oh. Whole bunch of onions sitting right there. That onion really kicks it up a notch. It adds like a sweetness into the meat. You can taste onion through the whole burger, and it's absolutely delicious. I will definitely be making these again. If you've never made these, I highly recommend you give them a shot. The smell of these burgers was driving me up the wall. I was so excited to eat these that I totally forgot to give you the hashtags for this week's contest. Hashtag Komodo Joe, hashtag Karbon Steel. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe below. Enter the contest while you're down there. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you soon.